headlines of VTV News. Prime Minister chairs meeting of National Committee for Education and Training Innovation. Mekong Delta faces severe saltwater intrusion. And later on in our world news, Taiwan of China ramps up efforts to rescue survivors of deadly earthquake.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello to our viewers all over the world. This is VTV News coming live to you from Hanoi. You're with me, Lina Fatman. Here's the top news of the hour. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh, chairman of the National Committee for Education and Training Innovation, led the committee's meeting on innovation and development of preschool education to 2030 with a vision to 2045. The evaluation session indicated that preschool education has seen significant developments in both scale and quality. The country has achieved universal preschool education for 5-year-old children. The network of schools and preschool classes is continually being strengthened, expanded, and diversified. However, there are still shortcomings, limitations, difficulties, and challenges that require significant efforts to overcome. At the meeting, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh emphasized Vietnam's need to universalize preschool education for children aged 3 to 5 years old. He also highlighted the importance of finding innovative ways to mobilize resources through public-private cooperation. Major challenges such as the lack of teachers and facilities need to be addressed. The Prime Minister assigned the Ministry of Education and Training to work with other ministries, branches, and localities to thoroughly, clearly, and scientifically complete documents and records for submission to competent authorities for review. The biggest challenge of the semiconductor industry is the shortage of high-quality human resources. In Vietnam, human resources training for this sector only meets less than 20% of domestic demand. Other countries, including powerhouses in this industry, also face the same issue. What are their solutions, and how can Vietnam apply these experiences in the country? Let's learn more in the following story.
As home to 7 of the world's top 10 semiconductor companies by market capitalization, the U.S. is lacking human resources in the semiconductor industry, mainly due to the decreasing number of engineering and technology graduates over the past 2 decades. However, teaching and training facilities here always have high quality.
For example, if you look at like an engineer that's trained at UC Berkeley, my alma mater, right around the second, third year, they can start getting internship at Lam Research and build practical skills there, creating a simulated reality where the student can interact with machines, interact with the latest design, etc. I think that could probably solve these 2 challenges.
Meanwhile, in Japan, the number of jobs for semiconductor engineers has increased 13-fold in the past decade. The country focuses on strengthening cooperation between the semiconductor sector, government, and academia.
Japanese businesses are working with the government to train human resources in more fields. Vietnam is also implementing a number of training programs with the collaboration between universities and businesses. I think Vietnam's goal of training 50,000 engineers in this industry is feasible.
In Europe, the European Chip Act aims to build a network of chips competence centers. The first €4 million have been funded to establish the European Chip Skills Academy located in Germany.
In this specific industry of the semiconductors, Europe is very strong in R&D. One thing Vietnam can do is rely on the wealth of expertise foreign. On the long run, Vietnam must build an attractive environment for skilled workers to be willing to build their career in Vietnam.
According to a report from consulting firm McKinsey, the semiconductor industry could reach a value of €1 trillion by 2030. Besides investment attraction, the competition to attract human resources between countries is also fierce. International experience is a useful reference for Vietnam in realizing the goal of training 50,000 semiconductor engineers by 2030.
Moving on to other agriculture news, Vietnam's durian exports made up 31.8% of China's total import turnover for this commodity, as reported by the Plant Protection Department under the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. The department suggested that the successful entry of frozen durian products into the Chinese market could represent a significant step forward for Vietnam's durian industry. If Vietnamese growers focus on enhancing cultivation techniques and improving product quality, the industry may surpass Thailand and dominates the Chinese market. Last year, Vietnam exported 595,000 tons of durian to China, constituting 98.6% of the total durian export volume. In the first 2 months of 2024, Vietnam exported over 41,000 tons of the fruit. Vietnam ranks third globally in spice supply and processing, trailing only India and China. This data comes from the Vietnam Pepper and Spice Association. Pepper, in particular, is a key crop because its cultivation readily adapts to green standards. It doesn't cause deforestation and reduces pesticide use. Therefore, multiple strategies are necessary to ensure stable and sustainable pepper production. This will help Vietnam maintain control and influence over global market prices. It's crucial for Vietnam to continue investing in processing, as there are currently only 14 deep processing facilities. In the first quarter of this year, Vietnam exported over 2 million tons of rice, totaling $1.37 billion in value, with an average price of approximately $661 per ton. This marked a 5% increase from the previous year. These figures highlight a rise as Vietnam's main export commodity. Favorable weather conditions this year have led to an increase in rice production and quality. Consequently, businesses are focusing their resources on rice procurement.
Boats line up one after another, waiting for the rice to dry. Fresh rice should be dried within 24 hours of harvest to maintain its quality and fragrance. This rice factory operates around the clock. Its goal is to purchase as much rice as possible from farmers.
From the beginning of the winter-spring crop until now, we have purchased about 500,000 tons of rice of all kinds to ensure an adequate supply for our factory to process and fulfill existing orders.
Since the start of the year, this enterprise has exported approximately 200,000 tons of rice. Its primary markets are Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, where it has managed to achieve a peak selling price of $620 per ton. At the same time, this enterprise has secured 80% of the rice yield from affiliated fields in the Mekong Delta, which spans an area of over 10,000 hectares. This crucial supply source enables them to fulfill signed contract with a target output of 20,000 tons of rice.
Particularly, export markets are completely stable, especially traditional markets like Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, and China. These markets still need Vietnamese rice imports.
In 2024, the cost of materials for agricultural production is expected to remain high. This is compounded by the potential risk of disease outbreaks on crops, drought, and severe water shortage. To stabilize rice supply, especially for high-quality exports, the crop industry is urged to adjust production plans and crop structures appropriately.
In the first quarter, Vietnam expanded its tuna exports to over 80 markets, adding 10 new markets. The export turnover was $220 million, a 22% increase compared to the same period last year. This information is provided by the Vietnam Association of Seafood Processing and Exporters, or VASEP. Tuna exports to countries in the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership (CPTPP) continue to grow. Particularly, the first quarter saw a sharp increase in tuna export turnover to Canada and Chile, rising by 146% and 116% respectively. However, there was a slight decrease in tuna exports to Europe. The rules governing gold import and export are being revised to adapt to the changing dynamics of the gold market. Proposals include removing regulations related to supply and demand, as well as the monopoly on gold bar brands. However, experts note that eliminating the monopoly may not fully address the price gap between domestic and global markets. They recommend that in addition to increasing supply, other measures are needed to ensure market transparency and alignment with the international market.
The proposal to eliminate the gold bar monopoly mechanism has been put forward, leading to a decrease in the disparity between domestic and international gold prices. Nevertheless, a significant difference of 10 to 12 million Vietnam dong per tael persists.
Boosting the supply implies that as new resources enter the market, prices will seek a new equilibrium, consequently leading to a reduction in price disparity.
By facilitating gold imports and circulation in the market, the price of Vietnamese gold will align with global gold prices. This would lead to fluctuations typically within the range of 5 to 10%.
Many experts believe that it's time to open the market and treat gold as a commodity.
Releasing control of the market doesn't imply a complete let go. Instead, we should implement taxation measures. For instance, speculative purchases of gold bars, which are not intended for personal use but rather for investment purposes, should be subject to taxation to deter speculative activities.
Besides increasing supply, considering the allowance of gold trading accounts may also be a potential solution.
We can explore the models used by gold trading platforms in other countries. This approach allows individuals to participate in gold trading activities on these platforms. The primary focus will be on trading gold certificates, which eliminates concerns about physical gold storage and stagnation. This system ensures connection to global gold prices while facilitating active trading.
Several proposals for a new mechanism to manage the gold market have surfaced. Nonetheless, to completely bridge the gap between domestic and global gold prices, it's clear that we need to increase the supply. This will help reduce the accumulated demand that has built up over decades due to inadequate gold imports.
In the past few weeks, all eyes are on a series of notorious cyber attacks on key enterprises in securities, energy, telecommunications, and healthcare. The most recent is the data encryption or ransomware attacks on VN Direct Securities joint stock company and Vietnam Oil Corporation. Once again, these incidents have triggered a stark warning on cyber safety.
Recent investigations into ransomware attacks targeting businesses reveal that the tactics employed by the perpetrators are highly sophisticated and pose significant risks. The assailants targeted crucial business data and held them for ransom.
The Ministry of Public Security has consistently advised victims against giving the perpetrators what they want. Once we compromise with ransom requests, our data system will become even more susceptible to attacks.
Discovered tactics involve planting hidden malicious codes on a chosen network of data, gathering data daily, and accessing risk factors associated with them before deciding on the most vulnerable target. The more complex a structural organization is, the longer perpetrators will stay under the radar.
All organizations and enterprises must review their security system and categorize their data based on order of security priority to enhance their disaster preparedness.
According to Cybersecurity Ventures, in 2023, global cyber attacks in 2023 caused a damage of up to $8 trillion or a daily loss of nearly $22 billion worldwide. Despite this alarming trend, many organizations still lack the awareness to safeguard their data integrity. As a result, their accident response and management remain deficient. Cyber threats continue to evolve in complexity, underscoring the urgent need for enhanced cybersecurity measures.
A typical burglar enters a residence and searches for highest worth items instead of seizing valuables right away. That's the same for cyber attacks. Once they get a hold of data, attackers will study it thoroughly before encrypting them and hold them for ransom.
In Vietnam, the number of cyber attack incidents has surpassed 148,000. The number of security holes increased by 21% against the previous year. Officials anticipate a rise in sophisticated cyber attacks, particularly ransomware targeting crucial sectors, such as government agencies, economic institutions, and financial organizations. Consequently, it is imperative for agencies to evaluate their information systems to develop strategies for combating cyber threats.
And before we move to the next part of VTV News, let's check out how the Vietnam dong is weighed against other currencies in the world market today. Coming up next, Mekong Delta faces severe saltwater intrusion. And injured workers recover from coal mine accident in Quảng Ninh. According to the National Center for Hydrometeorology forecasting, saltwater intrusion is expected to reach deep into the rivers of the Cửu Long or Mekong Delta in April and May. This region, known as the country's hub for rice, fruit, and seafood, typically experiences such intrusion during the dry season. The salinity rate of 4 grams per liter is anticipated 40 to 65 kilometers from the sea between April the 1st and the 10th. In the Ho River, a tributary of the Mekong, salinity is expected 40 to 55 kilometers upriver during this period. This year's intrusion is deeper than usual, although not as severe as during the 2015 to 16 and 2019 to 20 dry seasons. During the period of saltwater intrusion, farmers are advised to limit excessive watering and check the salinity level before irrigating their plants. Crops like durian and rice are at risk of negative impacts. Farmers are advised to store water for daily use starting now. In Long An province, over 10,000 hectares of rice crops in the areas at risk of high salinity have been safeguarded against saltwater intrusion. This year, local farmers anticipate a successful harvest and favorable prices.
By cultivating 0.3 hectares of rice, Bang had a successful harvest and earned nearly $360 in this winter spring crop.
Thanks to the government support, I have an adequate water supply for irrigation, thereby improving the rice yield.
To protect his rice crops from drought and saltwater intrusion, Hùng cultivated Dai Thơm 8, a drought-resistant and high-yielding rice variety. As a result, his crop yield exceeded his expectations.
The Dai Thơm 8 variety has better adaptability in drought conditions. It is a high-yielding rice with a shorter growing time. I monitored every stage of its growth.
In previous years, drought and saltwater intrusion severely damaged about 70% of the total rice area in Nhật Ninh commune. However, this year, effective measures ensured all rice crops were protected.
Local farmers have taken proactive measures to ensure the supply of water for irrigation, thereby bolstering crop production. In addition, we have upgraded irrigation systems to prevent saltwater from entering the farmland.
Thanks to effective cultivation practices, farmers have been able to protect over 10,000 hectares of rice in many districts of Long An province. Nearly 70% of total rice crops have already been harvested, resulting in an output of more than 1 million tons.
7 coal miners who were injured in a methane gas explosion at a coal mine in Quảng Ninh province are now in stable condition at the Quảng Ninh Provincial General Hospital. Their recovery is progressing steadily, but the incident remains vivid in their minds.
Chuan, a fortunate survivor of the coal mine accident, is currently in stable condition and receiving emergency treatment in Quảng Ninh Provincial General Hospital. However, he remains traumatized from witnessing the explosion. The incident occurred while a group of 11 coal workers were mining.
Workers in the mining industry face many risks, as they can't anticipate what might happen during the mining process. However, I remain committed to this job as I'm a second-generation coal miner in my family.
Witnesses reported that the explosion occurred almost instantly, resulting in the deaths of 4 coal miners. Injured workers were swiftly transported to the hospital for emergency care. A day later, the survivors are on the mend, with one of them already discharged from the hospital.
All 7 injured workers treated at Quảng Ninh Provincial General Hospital are now in stable condition. Tomorrow, they will undergo health scans for re-examination.
Local authorities and the company provided financial support to the victims' families. Several tragedies caused by methane gas explosions have been reported in Quảng Ninh province in recent years. Underground coal mines pose significant dangers. Many lives have been claimed by explosions triggered by fire damp and coal dust.
Thai Princess Maha Chakri Sirindorn performed a 50-minute musical Vietnam at Peace at Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok on March the 26th. The performance was part of the university's 107th founding anniversary celebrations. The event attracted more than 1,500 attendees, including Thai scholars, intellectuals, officials, and foreign diplomats. The musical was based on a 68-line poem created by the princess. It highlighted her impressions of Vietnam's stunning landscapes and people, and it was adapted into 9 songs featuring both Vietnamese and Thai music. The performance was a fusion of ensemble, chorus, and dance, and involved nearly 150 artists. The princess, wearing a traditional Vietnamese long dress, played the so doang, a 2-stringed musical instrument from Thailand. Cat Tien National Park, also known as Nam Cat Tien Tourist Area, boasts a diverse and unique ecosystem recognized by UNESCO as a World Biosphere Reserve. It serves as a fascinating destination for nature enthusiasts who wish to explore the marvels of the natural world and embark on unforgettable experiences.
Located at the transitional zone from the south-central highlands of the southern delta, Cat Tien National Park holds a strategic position at the convergence of the Dong Nai River, demonstrating both intensity and gentleness in its flow. The park is completely isolated from the nearby residential areas.
I found myself deeply impressed by the towering ancient trees, the flowing rivers, and the expanses of lush greenery within.
Visitors can access the park by crossing the Dong Nai River by boat. The tranquil dawn air and the melodic singing of birds and the sight of centuries-old giant trees all help to dispel any sense of fatigue. Cat Tien Forest is home to several ancient trees, including thung tree, crepe myrtle, banyan, and curtain fig. These trees are enormous, with roots often larger than a human. Clear streams weave through the forest, forming picturesque natural landscapes. These streams not only add to the beauty but also nurture the trees and animals residing within the park.
Upon my arrival here, I was surprised to find that everything appeared much the same as it did around 20 years ago when I was a student.
Gatien National Park is not only home to towering ancient trees, but it also houses a variety of intriguing natural wonders, ready for exploration by tourists and researchers.
Coming up next in our world news, Taiwan of China ramps up efforts to rescue survivors of deadly earthquake. And UN suspends aid movements at night in Gaza. Emergency workers have exerted full efforts to reinforce damaged buildings and rescue victims trapped under debris following the strongest earthquake in 25 years that hit Taiwan, China on Wednesday morning. The earthquake has confirmed at least 9 fatalities and hundreds of injuries. The 7.4 magnitude earthquake triggered the collapse of several buildings and caused high rises to lean. Local fire departments deployed tower cranes, excavators, and trucks to place large rocks to prevent further building collapses. The earthquake was followed by more than 200 aftershocks. Subways in many counties and cities on the island are temporarily suspended. Repeated aftershocks led to landslides, trapping dozens of people in highway tunnels. The United Nations has temporarily halted nighttime activities in Gaza for a minimum of 48 hours to assess security concerns. This decision comes after the killing of staff from the World's Central Kitchen food charity, as reported by UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric on Wednesday. This suspension began on April the 2nd. However, the World Food Program continues its operations during the day. These operations include daily efforts to send convoys to northern Gaza, where the majority of the population is now experiencing extreme hunger. The United Nations has encountered numerous challenges in distributing aid across the Gaza Strip due to escalating tensions between Israel and Hamas. On Monday, 8 workers at the World's Central Kitchen were killed in an Israeli airstrike. Israel stated that it was a mistake resulting from a misidentification at night. Inflation in the Eurozone fell to 2.4% in March, a drop lower than expected. This trend strengthens the prospect of the European Central Bank or ECB reducing interest rates by summer. Official data from the EU Statistical Office, Eurostat, released on Wednesday shows that consumer prices in the Eurozone increased by a mere 2.4%, decreasing from 2.6% in February. The slowdown in annual consumer price growth is due to smaller increases in food and goods prices, despite steady service prices. While the inflation rate is nearing the ECB's target of 2%, experts do not anticipate an interest rate cut at the next monetary policy meeting on April the 11th. The ECB president wants more evidence to confirm that inflation has been controlled. And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. And that's it for this edition of VTV News. Thank you very much for watching. To rewatch our program, you can download VTVgo from App Store or Google Play, or tune in our YouTube channel at youtube.com/VTV4Go. Goodbye for now.